process. And obviously, there's the funding required to pay for the arborist.
Okay.
And I think also moving forward, you know, in some cases, historic preservation gets a little bit of a bad rap because of what people think might happen, that, you know, we're going to block off that tree and that nobody can ever touch it. And, you know, if the requirements are, if it becomes diseased in the future, it's able to come down. It doesn't mean you have to keep a diseased tree on your property just because it's heritage. They understand that it's trees. But I think that having a good working relationship, getting something on the Heritage Tree Program, you know, it shows that good partnership between a private property owner and the city and the volunteers that are coming out. And I think it's only going to be able to help us in the future for different projects, whatever that means. Whether that's another tree, whether that's somebody saying, you know, I've got a landmark on the city's register and I'm interested in trying to figure out how to put it on the national register. Can you help me with that? So I think this is really a jumping off point, and we're jumping off, I think, to a successful nomination for the Heritage Tree.
So does doing City Hall, that seems to be the first kind of domino here to do that. Are we then able, on our own accord, maybe without, at least initially, to use that to piggyback some of these other sites here in town? I'm maybe not asking that well, just in terms of, because that's an extensive process to get these various places that you've listed here to get that on the registry. Is that something we look at, maybe, great, we've got one, what do we do on our own to cause, I guess, maybe somebody to stick around and visit some of the other places that may not officially be on the list?
There is a city process. So we've got the Mac House and the Bear House and the chapel. And I know there's some property owners here, like I'm pretty sure the folks that have the Canby Depot, and I'm sure that would qualify for the National Register, but it isn't even on the city list. But there is a process to get things on the city list that's a little faster than the National Registry. It's not super fast, though, because it involves going through, first of all, our board has to make a recommendation, then it has to go to the Planning Commission, then they have to hold a public hearing, or maybe we hold a public hearing, and then it comes back to the Planning Commission, and then it comes to you folks, and then there has to be a historic overlay zone declared. So and what we're doing with the Heritage Trail is these are not involved in preservation at all. We're just identifying buildings and putting signs on them. That's probably the easiest thing we can do. And it doesn't guarantee that the building won't be torn down or anything like that, but at least it brings it, highlights it, and gets that building in front of the public.
I also think that, you know, having the knowledge of, we go through this process and, you know, best case scenario, it gets on the National Register, then we can work with other property owners. Let's say it's the depot and say, this is what we ran into, here's where we really hit dead ends, here's where, you know, we struggled a little bit, here's where we really felt like we succeeded, and use that as a way to reach out to property owners. And then also, not every building, obviously, that's historic needs to be on the National Register. Not every property owner feels that it's a necessary designation. But with some of the information that we gained from the intensive level survey, those, you know, if we put a plaque up, it doesn't necessarily have to be on that building, so it could be near there. So tying those two things together, you know, I would imagine that if my family traveled someplace for to see something that was on the National Register, and that in addition to that, there was information readily available that there's also a heritage trail, and you could walk around and you could see these other buildings that were equally or sometimes more important to Canby, that they would spend some time, and then hopefully while they're spending time, they spend some of that $1,600 worth of money in our town, and they eat here and they shop here and they enjoy Canby and all that it has to offer.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Great job on this. My goodness.
Yeah, first of all, Carol, thank you. You were a blessing to this town, and I liked what you had to say there. Is we've got all this around here. Let's do something with it. Council hears me often talk about how do we monetize our assets, and this is an important way. Second, we often don't realize what we have here. I was talking to the owner of the Bear House because I saw that it was on Airbnb. And she was saying, oh yes, we frequently get people from France and around the world staying at our place. And I had no idea that we had an internationally known place. And thirdly, what Jamie says is correct, that getting a national designation puts us on a map, national if not international map. People come and see one thing, they'll come and see the others. And finally, let's all try and think about this vision that Councilor Hensley and I have been talking about, that we don't have to be the Mecca. We just have to be the lemonade stand on the way to Mecca. And if Oregon City and the region gets the mill site going, we're going to have people from around the world coming to see the second largest falls in North America. And if we get them coming off the Aurora exit, they'll come through here, and some of the Chamber of Commerce members will be able to monetize that. So these are all pieces that need to be put together. And history is one of the things that we have in this town, and we have underutilized it. So thank you for starting to push this rock. And I think once we get a little momentum on it, I think others will join. And I haven't told Renata the story that one of the main developers at the South Waterfront called me and asked me about the properties that he saw listed in the Journal. And I referred him on to Renata, but one of his first questions was, is there interest in this town, in Canby, for a historic nomination?
Oh, good.
That was his first question. And I said, having saw this on the agenda, I said, yes, we do have a movement to do that. And he says, that's important to me. So it's a nice thing to do, as you often say, the difference between nice things and ought to do. Yeah, this is something that's going to have a payoff down the road, and it will bring prosperity to this city.
Well, if any of you are interested, the next Historic Review Board meeting is the first Monday, and Rosemary Johnson is coming to talk to us, because we feel like we're still, learning as we go. Rosemary Johnson was the planning director in Astoria, who has been very instrumental in some very successful projects there and partnering with the business community, and probably one of the most successful in the state, in a very difficult, I think, circumstances on the coast. We're lucky we're close to the metro. Yeah, I guess that's a two-edged sword there, but so she's bringing with her some information about, these are the things we did right in Astoria, these are the things we did wrong, so learn from us, and these are some tips on how to sort of make sure that you're, working well with your partners in the community.
And can you repeat the date on that again?
December 1st.
And it's going to be a conference call. She's going to send the information and call us.
So we'll be able to get the information to everybody, but you're all invited anytime to any Historic Review Board meeting.
They're thrilling.
If you're a history buff, absolutely it is.
Maybe if you just like knowledge.
Or money.
That could be it too.
I've had, through my career, so many opportunities to see the positives and negatives of efforts like this, and I'm kind of ashamed to say that there were too many times in my career that I was indifferent to the efforts associated with preserving buildings, and that's just the wrong emotion to have on something as critical as this, and I'm now passionate about preserving our history and our culture and traditions, and the only way that you can do that is to capture permanently something that has meaning to the community, and that really underscores the values that the community is trying to hold on to. So even as we grow, we can remember where we started, and it takes us back and anchors us to where we should be.
Thank you for sharing that.
So Jamie, next steps in regards to this for you guys and/or for us?
I think we were interested in how you were all going to react, and so you've told us. And so we know what our plan is, and now we've shared it with you, and so I think it's just a matter of we have to make this happen.
Well, I think Councilor Parker's point about just, it is a lot of little things that need to be tied together, and
Yes.
you look at, and in fact, one of the first questions asked today from one of the developers was, what is the look that you're going for? What are you aiming for downtown? And being one that's aesthetically challenged, and I like what I like, and I know what I like, and I think of, I think I ended up mentioning a couple of the buildings in town that are very eye-catching that we've made improvements to, like the Oddfellow Building, the Masons Building, our City Hall, communities like, Silverton and McMinnville, where they've been able to retain a lot of that, I think I want to say turn-of-the-century type buildings and whatnot, I think are great. So I'm not sure how we bring more of that in and how we balance that with modern and new and, compared to like the Andrus Building, which is more modern than something like the Oddfellow Building, but there's just a lot of character and pieces to that can be learned from. I mean, the reason we take our elementary kids around Canby is to see these places and understand. They spend a whole block of time talking about the history of Canby and where it started and kind of where we're headed. And so I think it's great. I know it's going to take time. That's why I was asking, like, what are those pieces? We do something like this. What can we do locally that can maybe amplify some of the larger pieces that we're going after? So I appreciate it. So thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very much.
Next on the agenda, city administrators, business and staff reports.
It's interesting. I had a long list, and I think underscoring the activity and the involvement of the councilors and the mayor and Canby. I checked off most of them as you reported on them, most of the activities I've had a chance to participate in. There are a couple things that I'd like to speak to, however. The first is we're working on the architect RFP for the library civic center building. I'm excited to get that out to interested parties in the next couple of weeks. We also are working, although it's taken a back seat to our efforts on the project, working on the development of our job announcement for a Public Works Director, and so we'll be pursuing that. And hopefully in the near term, you will not have to have your city administrator try to explain wastewater improvements to you. And somebody competent to have that conversation with you will be able to take my place. I want to compliment Haley for, I participated with her in a Skype audit exit conference this morning. We have great representation in our finance department, and I will tell you that the audit report that is issued is going to be very positive and complimentary. No audit report comes without a management letter, and so there will be items listed, but as you review it, you will find that it's very positive, and we should be proud of the progress that this city is making in many compliance areas and in its interrelationship both with our independent auditors and with the departments throughout the city in complying with the standards that the council has set and that our state and federal regulators have set for financial reporting. The property purchase is closing on the Library Civic Center on Friday of this week. We're excited about that. We'll be able to put that in the books and move forward with our next steps. And I want to thank everybody who has been involved in that, and most particularly Amanda, who shepherded this effort all the way through, and then I get to sign the papers, and it seems almost unfair, but I'll take it anyway. Thank you, Amanda. Attended a Friends of the Library meeting yesterday afternoon, and I want to comment on this because of the passion that the Friends show for the library and for efforts of the council to support the library and its growth and its upcoming move. They will be renewing memberships, so I'm going to put a plug in to councilors and members of the public to to reach out to friends, and you can get your membership forms, I think, through the library, and would encourage everybody to support our local library and purchase an annual membership as soon as you're able to. And that completes my reports.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Parker.
Concerning the management reports, I have to commend you and want you to take it back to the management team that one of your young managers has raised the bar on the monthly management reports and started including photographs, which I find very helpful. So others can seek to achieve that level, but I appreciate being able to see pictures of projects that are actually going on, and I think that might be valuable in some of the other areas of the city. If we're talking about a piece of equipment in Public Works, I may not know what that is. So anyway,
I think I better have a talk with that person about raising the bar too high. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and one of the other items that I had meant to comment on was the management reports that are in your packets. But yeah, that was an excellent report.
Right. Thank you, sir. Last opportunity this evening for citizen input. If you'd like to come up and pontificate and share your thoughts. Seeing no one raising, we will move into action review.
You have adopted Resolution 102 and 103. You've approved Ordinance 1407 to come up for second reading on December 3rd. You've adopted Ordinance 1408, and you've approved Ordinance 1409 to come up for second reading on December 3rd.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Joe, do we have exec session this evening?
We do not.
Excellent. Before we move to adjourn, I want to wish everyone here in our unusually full auditorium. Can I use the word auditorium? Sure. And those at home, I'm in the mayor, I can say that, all right. And those of you at home, to have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving, because we won't see you before then. So thank you all for being here, and have a safe holiday. I'll take a motion to adjourn, please. Right. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Good night, Canby. Thank you very much.